Hello, fencing fanatics. Coach Jason here again with episode 6 of our short web series. Today's book is a little bit of a departure because this is a first-time read for me. And the book is The Woman Fencer by Nick and Anita Evangelista. It's kind of hard to say fast. Nick and Anita Evangelista. It's 211 pages, published in 2001. And it's got 5 sections, which are the layout of those sections is a bit interesting. So this book is written to quote unquote speak directly to the female fencer or those women wanting to get into the sport of fencing. So the first 3 sections are dedicated to that. Section 4 has some basic fencing stuff in it, and then section 5 is biographies of accomplished fencers. So let's dive in, shall we? The Evangelistas are classical fencers. In other words, they study fencing as a sport as it existed from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, pre-electric, right? So there was a lot more emphasis on how things were done. You were actually received points for form. There were more hand judges and total directors around the strip because obviously you didn't have a scoring machine telling you whether it was a hit or not, right? So you had more people making those decisions. Again, they're called classical fencers. And they write this book with a little bit of arrogance. There's a couple things I want to share with you. One of them is page 11. Let's see. Many fencers, finding the modern approach shallow and pointless, have returned to a more classically oriented game, emphasizing art and science in their quest for excellence. That statement right there reeks of a lack of understanding of what sport fencing is, and it's a bit on the arrogant side to say that sport fencing is shallow and pointless. Wow, that's definitely pretty arrogant. On page 42, where is it here? They say that modern fencing emphasizes tactics over technique and results over process. Because it requires little or no mastery to engage in it, only muscle speed and aggressive intent, which gives those who follow this route instant fencing. Please, Evangelistas, please tell that to all of our Olympic female, regardless of sex, male or female. Please tell all of those Olympic heroes there that have won medals in gold and have represented the U.S. that they haven't spent years from the time they were kids, until young adults, practicing and perfecting their sport to get where they were. Obviously, what you're saying is that they just jumped right into it and were able to do it because they were fast or they were strong, right? Please tell them that. I'm sure you won't have an argument there at all. The other thing I want to point out, what page was that? I think it was page 37. I think you can see where I'm going with some of this here. Sport fencing. If you are of combative nature and thrive on competition, sport fencing will appeal to you. That is absolutely ignorant. That's absolutely ignorant. To say something like that you have to be a combative nature, you just want to go in and win, you got to compete, because you have a competitive personality, you're A-type. No, that's not what fencing is about. There's plenty of people out there. They're not. Every sport has A-type people in it. Every sport, not just fencing. And I can guarantee you that classical fencing will have those people that want to win, in their Victorian style competitions. I'm being a little facetious here because this is that's garbage. They write this book from an air of superiority with the way they do things, and I'm not going to knock classical fencing. We shouldn't do that at all. I think it's great if you want to fence a certain way that was pre-electric and was certainly the only way to fence pre-electric, right? That's fine. If you want to, keep the judging partially based on your form and how you do things and how you look, that's fine. That's your group. That's what you want to do. But don't try to knock down the other side of fencing, which is a much larger side, right? The competitive sport. Don't try to knock that down. As an instructional book, this is very lacking. As I said, section 4, there's only 30 pages devoted to all 3 weapons. That's not enough. They don't really go into a whole lot of detail on things. So yeah, if a beginner were to pick this up and say, I want to, learn a little bit about fencing, or not about fencing, but a little bit about techniques and footwork and so forth, not so much. They're really not going to get that. 30 pages is not enough. Now, the history section on this is pretty good. If you recall, if we go back to episode number 1, I said that Nancy Curry credited the Germans with creating the sport of fencing, or at least organizing the sport of fencing. And I never heard that before. Well, guess what? It's right in here too. Now, they could have used Curry's book. I don't know. I didn't see her book mentioned in here toward the back, but they did the same thing. They said the Germans were responsible for organizing sport fencing. Okay, that's the second time I've seen it, but I still don't know where the source is from. Neither of those two authors are the original source, so you got to go a little bit further back to figure out where that's coming from. They also mentioned Baptiste Bertrand, which I mentioned in the last book review, as championing women fencers. That's kind of widely known. So that didn't surprise me, but it was nice to see that in here. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of the book, and that's sections 2 and 3. And as I said before, it speaks directly to women and women fencers. Now, Anita is a registered nurse, and at the time she was writing the book, she was going for a degree in psychology. So there's sections on here regarding nutrition, diet, and things like that, which that's cool. She knows what she's talking about in there, as far as I can tell, right? I'm not a dietitian in any sense of the imagination, but since she is a registered nurse, they know something about that. But section 3 deals with women's issues, and they list out, I think it's 8 or 10 issues that she is saying are more specific to women, like the fear of fencing, or the fear of confrontation, the fear of combat. And I've read it, I have my own opinions on it, but seeing how I am not a woman, I am not even going to try to speak to that. So, do I recommend this? Meh. It's hard to say yes or no on this one. No, as a fencing manual. It's horrible. 30 pages is not nearly adequate to address all 3 weapons. So no, absolutely not. Maybe, for the directly speaking to women sections, I'm sure there will be female fencers out there that will find the advice in this valuable, useful, and others won't. So really, that's just going to come down to your own opinion on those sections. If it's something, if we want to get into the psychology of women in fencing, okay, this might have something to lend to you. But as a manual, no. It's still available from Amazon for $24, I think, so it's still in print, or at least it's being sold in used copies. So if you want to check it out, you can, but be forewarned, it is heavily biased toward modern fencing, so it is not relevant in any stretch of the imagination to what we're doing to our sport. Yeah, that's really all I got to say about that one. Hope you enjoy the episode. Take care. Addendum. I forgot to mention 2 important things. So one of the books that they have in the bibliography is Goggler, whatever his name is, William Goggler. His book, the only other book so far in this series that I've just not liked. And he was a classical fencer, so I'm like, well, that figures, doesn't it? And in the biography section, they actually have a picture and a couple paragraphs about Elaine Sherris, who wrote Steps to Success, which we did in episode 2. So I thought that was kind of cool to actually have a picture of her. I didn't know what she looked like, so that's kind of cool. So, anyway, enjoy.